so I'll kick it off with the first key takeaway, and that is, I guess, the Detroit Pistons are really, really bad at basketball, no secret. When you're losing by like 30 or 20 to the Washington Wizards and the Lakers, obviously the Lakers are pretty solid, but I think they came off a 30-point loss.
44 points to the Sixers,
yeah. 44 points to the 76ers with a healthy Anthony Davis and LeBron James, a healthy team. Only guy who was really missing, I think, was Vando, who's been out the whole season. Not a great look. The record of the Pistons, what would they be now? Like
2-17.
2-17.
Yeah, so they're on a 16-game losing streak. So it's no secret I think it's one of the longest active losing streaks in the entire NBA right now. So yeah, it's not a good start, not a good sign for Pistons fans. And I know we have like a love-hate relationship with the Pistons fans on this channel, but I think the reality has set in with your team, and right now you don't really have an identity. I feel like, you have all these pieces without any true meaning. You don't have a real direction with where you want to go. I guess I understand Cade is still pretty fresh in his NBA career because he missed that whole year. And then you've got Azar Thompson, who's one of the most promising rookies, and I really like him on both sides of the ball. But the one thing about his game is he can't shoot, so you're limiting yourself with your floor spacing there. And then Jaden Ivey coming off the bench was
He's having a killer year as well.
Exactly. It was a pretty confusing move on Monty Williams' part there, because then, he becomes disgruntled and you play Killian Hayes, who's had zero to no impact, playing 25 minutes a night, and he's barely, scratching the surface of any statistical impact on the box score, and obviously even beyond that, just from the eye test. And he has his moments, but I just don't understand what's going on with this Pistons team. I get they might be tanking to try and get more assets, but I don't really know if they need more assets because they've already got a big logjam at every position. You got Isaiah Stewart, Marvin Bagley, James Wiseman, Jalen Duren in the front court, and then you got in the back court, you got and on the wings, Marvin Bagley, Azar Thompson, Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham, Killian Hayes, Marcus Sasser, then Bojan Bogdanovic obviously is out at the moment with an injury, and I think
one trade piece.
Yeah, correct. And right now, if you try and trade him away, no team's going to want him. Obviously, because he's injured, and two, can they trust him then to be on the court when he does move teams eventually, if that's the direction that the Pistons want to take? But yeah, it's all over the shop right now, and I don't like to slander a team, or I don't like to badmouth any team in particular. But yeah, it's no secret the Pistons are awful right now, and if you're losing to the Washington Wizards, my own team at heart, it's never a good sign. Like Marcus mentioned at the top of the segment there. So
you know what it is? It's like they're like the last chance you of the NBA. Like everybody is technically on the last chance. Well, not last chance, but like last chance of being a star. I guess Marvin and then
James Wiseman,
Killian Hayes. So that it's just a lot of guys floating around who once upon a time had potential, but. Yeah, I think we've talked so much about Pistons in other episodes previously. I hate bad-mouthing them because I've caught my fair share of damn near abuse, to be honest. Damn near death threats at my head due to previous videos about the Pistons. But yeah, Pistons fans, just know at heart, I'm with you guys for the long run. But let's be honest, your team kind of sucks. I'm not going to lie.
That's going to be a screen grab from Pistons fans. They're going to screen record that and come back at you when they're winning a championship now. But moving on anyways, because we don't want to slander the Detroit Pistons any more than we already have. Second key takeaway of the week, the Lakers' gap between their best and worst basketball is humongous. Like when they're playing at their best, when they're, flowing, the chemistry's all there, and everyone's clicking on all cylinders, they are one of the hardest teams to stop, and they can beat anyone in the entire association. But when their wheels are falling off, when things aren't going their way, like we mentioned just before, they get 40-balled by a potential championship contending team. And if you're trying to be in the hunt and you're trying to call yourselves a contender out west, and in fact in the entire NBA, you can't be losing games by 40 points, especially when it comes to the playoffs. That's just going to hurt you in the long run. So, on one positive note on the Lakers, you see it when they play in the in-season tournament. They've been killing it. They're 4-0. They're into the knockout stages now. But just outside of that in-season tournament play, they've been god-awful. So I'd love to hear your take on this, because you are obviously a Lakers fan at heart, but at the same time, you've sort of slowly been frustrated with this organization. So it'd be interesting to see your take on their current state of affairs?
I just don't know where we currently stand with the roster. No, actually not the roster, just with our organization direction. Obviously we're trying to compete for a championship here, but do we continue to name chase and just, go the route? Obviously, no secret, the Bulls reached out to the Lakers about Zach LaVine, and they said, if there's no Aussie Reeves or no Rui Hachimura, we don't really want to do a deal there. And then reportedly, the Lakers were more interested in DeMar DeRozan than Zach LaVine, which I really don't understand. If you're going to get Zach or either guard, why you wouldn't go with Zach, who's more of a three-point shooter. But yeah, anyway, I just don't really know where we stand. I feel like, I guess when Vando comes back, it'll be a bit of a different dynamic. But I think overall, it's nothing to do with the typical Lakers thing where they use players as scapegoats. D'Angelo Russell is having a really, really efficient and a really good season. I think he's averaging 16 and 6, correct me if I'm wrong, and damn near 40% from three. He went off last game. We were talking about that the other day, just how good D'Angelo Russell is at the moment as a basketball player. And we saw in the offseason, he said, I want to be like that guy, Derek White. And no, he's not quite Derek White on the defensive end. I think the effort's there. I think D'Angelo Russell, he's willing to buy into a team who wants, to compete for a championship. He's not a selfish guy. It's just really weird seeing LeBron and D'Lo, the dynamic there. Sometimes LeBron, you could see he's kind of frustrated and they're often explaining things, which we all do, even at any level. You do it with your mates on the court. It's nothing personal. It's basketball at the end of the day. It's just, I don't know what this team is. Are we competitive? Are we not?
I think he's one of the players, though, that has that up and down sort of form and, the troubles with his consistency. Like I said, I know it was the Pistons, but he goes on and drops 35 and, arguably the best player on the court. And then the next game he goes completely missing. And, same thing can be said about Austin Reeves. Same thing can be said about Rui Hachimura. All these next up kind of guys. We know what to expect from AD when he's healthy. We know what to expect from Bron, even if he is sometimes on a minutes restriction or obviously he's aging, he's still playing, out of his mind. It's just the next guys up on that roster that need to step up at any given time. And if it's not one of the guys stepping up, it has to be the next guy. It can't be all 3 or 4 of these guys that are playing, that role as a fill-in third option kind of thing to go missing on any given night, because it's not going to cut it, and the Lakers aren't going to make any noise if that continues to happen. So fingers crossed they can turn it around. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how all things play out going forward.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I will say this, in terms of D'Angelo Russell, I've been a Russell fan for a while, so maybe I'm, glazing him too hard right now. But yeah, ever since he was a rookie, just because I was a Lakers fan, was a Kobe fan, don't need to hear the whole story. But I'm looking at it now, 18, about 50% from the field, 42% from the three, 7 assists, almost 4 rebounds, and almost a steal and almost a block. For D'Angelo Russell to do that, this could be, I'm not saying this is the best version. Obviously, Brooklyn, D'Lo, we would all have our eyes there. But in terms of just being able to adapt to a system, I think this is the best D'Lo version we've seen of that. Because at Minnesota, I think he was willing to buy in, but, circumstances kind of difficult with Anthony Edwards, Cat, Gobert. There's a lot going on. But I think, D'Lo's certainly matured, and I don't even know if he cares that much about being valued as a third option. He's just he wants to do whatever he could to win. Maybe he's always been like that, but the narrative, at least I feel has been D'Lo's kind of a selfish, I don't know, people don't like him, maybe because of that swaggy P.
Just about to say that. I was that it's always one negative thing in a player's career that people remember rather than what they did. It's the same thing with Gilbert Arenas, obviously, with the whole gun incident and, bringing the guns in the locker room. People forget how potent of a scorer he was. A 60 ball on Kobe and the Lakers in 06, top 3 in scoring in his prime. This guy was a killer, and it's the same as D'Lo. We know at his best, D'Lo's an absolute killer out in the court, and he's an underrated playmaker. I remember coming out of Ohio State, that was one trait that, teams really were big on him, is the fact that he could facilitate and really run an offense, being 6'5" and being a taller sort of point guard. So yeah, it's interesting how his career's kind of yo-yoed, but I think he's the key to the Lakers as much as Austin Reeves is, as much as guy like Rui Hachimura or any of those other dudes that are obviously playing their role alongside AD and Bron, but just have to see how it plays out. And, I think, again, they started off the season slow last year and look where it ended up for them. So I don't think it's do or die right now, but, it could get to that point at some part of the season if they don't figure things out.
Yeah. I'll move forward to D'Lo's former teammate. His key takeaway. Julius Randle has just got me in an absolute whirlwind. What is this guy? Is he a star, superstar, all-star? I don't know. But anyway, he's just confusing the hell out of me because obviously he started so slow, but then he has games against the Hornets. He had 25 points, 20 rebounds, and I feel like overall, Julius Randle, what I'm trying to say is if he does the little things like rebound, play defense, without all the scoring, he's aggressive on the glass. He's like the perfect player in my eyes that you would want on your team. But he's just a bit of a laughing stock sometimes. Like, he doesn't really want to rebound, doesn't want to play defense, wants to take those weird spin fadeaway mid-ranges like he's Kobe. And obviously, yes, he is a tough shot maker, but sometimes he kills the flow of the offense. But then at the same time, he can win you a ball game. So it's like, I just don't know what to make out of him. Like, what is Julius Randle at this current point in time? And like, yeah, the Knicks are playing well. I think they're 10-6, 10-5, but
he's another player like D'Lo that we just mentioned who is too much of a yo-yo player with his consistency. He has all NBA first team potential at times with the way he plays. Last year he dropped the 57-point game and, it was lights out. But I think he settles sometimes for too many threes. With a guy with that much athleticism, with, that much size and strength, for a guy to be settling and to becoming 2-3 point happy, I think it just takes away from his own game, and hence why his efficiency goes down because he's taken almost dumb shots from the arc. They're not even wide open ones. They're like contested step backs.
Literally spin fadeaways.
Yeah, he's not Luka. You know what I mean? Like Luka's the opposite. I'd much rather Luka doing a step back three, tough shot creation than a guy like Julius Randle who, like I said, who's got that physical stature and that, physical advantage against a lot of players in this league. So at the end of the day, as long as, like I said, if he's the kind of player that can bridge the gap between his best and worst basketball and, have that same mindset night in, night out, he's going to be a big asset to the Knicks. But then if he doesn't pull his head in, if he doesn't, like I said, start to play the right way and the way we know Julius Randle can play, it's going to be a detriment to them. And I think it might possibly be time to part ways with them. But we'll just have to see how things play out with what the Knicks want to do and how their next few games go in terms of the consistency and, if they can get wins on the board and start to put it together, then I think Julius Randle may be safe, but I think it's do or die this season. And if they don't have any playoff success or if they don't get any further than they did last season, you might look at Julius Randle as being out the door of Madison Square Garden.
Yes, definitely a weird one because basically I 100% agree with where you were heading because to me, Randle is like he's like Zion. He should be like Zion. He should be attacking the glass, scoring in the paint, not shooting 40% from the field. There's no way on earth. Why is Julius Randle shooting 40% from the field when he can score that well in the paint at such a high level with those floaters, with those, close mid-range shots, not those in the post fadeaways, deep threes. Like, that's not who Randle is, and that's not what he should aspire to be. If you just stick to your game, originally out of Kentucky, at the Lakers early days, at New Orleans, even obviously his career years at the Knicks, you can dominate every single night. But there's no reason why Randle should have games where he is struggling. There's just no way. So, yeah, we had to address this.
I just think it's like I said, it just comes down to shot creation, and that's not and shot selection. It's nothing to do with Julius Randle and saying we can't take 3-pointers.
Oh, IQ player.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it's not that he can't take threes, and we're not saying like don't take 3-pointers at all, because that the whole point of today's NBA is to stretch the floor out, stretch the defense, obviously make him guard you higher up the court, which obviously increases the spacing. But at the same time, there's a difference between taking 10 or 11 threes, like your Curry or Halliburton, etc., or you're a guy like. Or taking 2 threes, 3 threes, making all of them when they're open, when they're on. You know what I mean? So I think that's the difference between him being at his best and his worst. But like I said, I think he's a really great player, and I don't want to take away from that. I don't want to sound like we're slandering Julius Randle, but I just think he's the key to them having success come playoff time, because we know what to expect from Jalen Brunson. We know what to expect from the other guys on that roster who play their role, and Mitchell Robinson out there rebounding like an animal. Same with Isaiah Hartenstein, Emmanuel Quickly, Quentin Grimes, those kind of players. I think we know what to expect from them as role players. But Julius Randle as that second star, or as that almost first option to Jalen Brunson, even though we know that Jalen Brunson's now the first option officially, he needs to do better. So yeah, hopefully he turns the corner and see what happens with the Knicks going forward. But for that week, obviously, that's what we did notice. But my next point, anyway, my next key takeaway is the Bucks look more and more legit now that Giannis and Dame are starting to put it together with the chemistry, finding out, obviously, how to play with one another. I think no one's taking a back seat now, kind of, if that makes sense. I feel like when it's time to go, Giannis puts the foot down. He looks like his same old self again. He's attacking the rim. He's being confident in, not having to give the ball up to Dame. And Dame's the same thing. When they know they need crunch time points, when they know they need someone to step up in the clutch, Dame is doing that. And I think they've bridged the gap with their best and their worst in terms of not only their offensive play, but their defense. But also for me, I think there's Brook Lopez stepping up and, really playing a part. I think that's helped with the Milwaukee Bucks' success. He had a 39-point game the other day. He's blocking shots. He's looking like Brook Lopez of last year, which put him into Defensive Player of the Year candidacy. But I think, they've started to turn a corner anyways.
Yeah, 100%. Giannis is playing like an MVP once again. So good to see, because there was a minute where I did think Giannis has taken a back seat to Dame and he's not really going to be that dominant player that he was. But he's been on an absolute tear, scoring like 30 every single night for the past week. 30 plus, 40. I think he had one game, he had 41. He had a game, he had 5 blocks. Killing on the glass, like you said, scoring in transition. And Dame over time, he's got that, 21 points per game to about 23. And he was shooting like 21% from 3. Now he's shooting like in the 30s, I think. So 10 plus more percent. Hey, that's why the Bucks are winning. They're slowly figuring it out, much like D Wade, LeBron at the time at the Heat. So, I think Bucks are still, 100% championship contenders, obviously out the East, and it's just terrific to see them two slowly clicking, but certainly not the final product or that the Bucks will be long term. Obviously, it's super early, but it's good to see the signs are definitely showing for sure.
100%. I don't really have much more to add to that. I think we summed it up pretty well.
So the next key takeaway goes along the lines of LaMelo Ball. And the key takeaway, I guess, LaMelo, we all know he was on an absolute tear before he got injured. Playing like damn near, if not the best, top 3. Obviously, Hallie's there, Curry's there. There's a lot of good point guards, but top 3 to 5 best point guards in the league. And for someone who just made our top 10 point guard list, that is really good. And for someone of that age, I think he's like a year older than me. He must be like 22. He was killing it. But I guess the thing is, over the course of his NBA career, injuries have been a thing. Ankle injuries specifically. And it's no secret that, he's been injured. So if these injuries continue to linger with the ankle, will this, I guess, deter his career trajectory? And is he doing enough in the offseason, to prevent these types of injuries from happening? Because obviously, you got to sprain your ankle, but I feel like it's a lot more than that. It's like tendons, and it's not looking real good for LaMelo. But I guess that was a key takeaway.
Yeah, for sure. And adding to that, I follow this guy on Instagram. His name's Mike Guevara or something like that, and he's a NBA strength and conditioning trainer. So he's not really a skills guy. He's more like injury prevention, strength, stuff of that nature. And the stuff that he goes through with like guys like Spencer Dinwiddie, Jalen Green, Fred VanVleet, Jared Vanderbilt, like he's doing like kettlebell walks up a hill to like increase ankle mobility, ankle strength. He's doing all these wacky exercises that seem a little bit unconventional, but he's a big believer in all like injuries start from the feet. And if your feet aren't 100%, and if you're, they're not strong or the joints around the foot and the ankle aren't stabilized, and that's where the rest of the injuries come, like, overuse, etc. So he's a big advocate on that. Was it maybe the overuse training from LeVar Ball at a young age? Was it the Triple B shoes that he wore, obviously, in certain years when he was in high school? Is it the lack of off-season preparation? I'm not saying he doesn't work hard. I'm not saying he doesn't put in the necessary work. But does he do the right work? Does he do the stuff that you need to sustain an 82-game season? And then if you add into the playoffs, if they make it, you're looking at almost 100 games a season. And for a guy like LaMelo Ball with the amount of injuries he's had, I think that should have been number one priority in the top of his list to come back. And could it be his new shoes, the Pumas? I don't know. Like, there's a lot of factors that could come into play here. We don't really know. But all I want to say is, like, if he does put that work in and he does commit himself to all of that diligent injury prevention, that, prehab, rehab sort of stuff, then these injuries might not be as significant. Instead of keeping him out for 3-4 weeks for an ankle sprain, you're looking at maybe like a week injury or whatever. So it's concerning, but I think, hopefully long term, a guy of LaMelo Ball's stature and talent, he doesn't hinder him, like you said, and he can have a long, prosperous career because he's damn near too good to not be playing night in, night out on the NBA hardwood. So hopefully he turns the corner, and fingers crossed the injury is not severe and he'll be back out in no time, and playing with that flair and excitement that we know and what we love to see from him night in, night out.
What was this guy's name again? The trainer?
Mike Guevara.
I need to get on it, because not that I'm like a professional basketball player or whatever, but I feel like my ankle's a little bit fucked up. I'm not going to lie. Like, I can rotate it this way, but then this way. I've just never, ever since I don't know, I think I sprained my whole foot, and it's just like the instability, it's there. So I need to get on these exercises.
Yeah, he trains Mike James as well, the one that plays at Monaco that was on the Brooklyn Nets.
He plays with Kemba?
Yeah, so he's another guy that Mike guy trains. So the results speak for themselves. I mean, the Vando one, it's not a good sign because Vando's injured, but like Jalen Green's healthy, Fred VanVleet's healthy, Spencer Dinwiddie's healthy for the most part. And I think it's a lot of these guys who have had certain injuries. So yeah, the guys that have had certain injuries, they go to him obviously to try and prevent further damage or further instability with the rest of their body. But moving on to my next point. Enough of Mike Guevara shout out anyway. USC's Isaiah Collier looks like a surefire top 3 pick. All we need to see from him is consistency as a jump shooter a little bit, and I think the change of pace. I think he plays a lot of times at one pace, which in the NBA, it's very easy to guard and it's very predictable. And he needs to clean up his assist to turnover ratio. He's currently averaging like 4 assists per game, nearly 19 points with the Trojans, but he's averaging 5.5 turnovers, which again, I don't necessarily think that is a true definition of who he is as a player. He's 6'5". He's got a great physical makeup. And I just think, if you can clean up those turnovers, which at the next level is going to be a bit different. I think the game's a lot more suited to him in the NBA because there's more spacing. It's more up and down in transition, a lot of pick and roll, and there's more adept role guys who can catch and, finish around the rim, and a lot more athletic sort of bigs. So I think he'll be fine, but it'll be interesting to see how the rest of his season progresses, because right now he's projected to be the number 1 pick in the 2024 NBA draft as per ESPN. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, Marcus, because we obviously discussed him early on in our journey on this channel, and it's good to see he's progressed along now and, been highly rated by a lot of the major media outlets for the draft next year.
I guess for me, the 5.5 turnovers per game? Well, yeah, 5.5, correct?
Yeah.
I feel like that will slowly disintegrate. I guess when Bronny James comes back, he'll probably be the lead point guard. I expect Collier's scoring production to maintain or at least increase. I love it. I feel like, I don't know if he's my for sure top number 1 pick. Like for sure, I think Alex Sarr, Ron Holland, I don't know, Buzelis, I'm still kind of on that train. I don't know yet.
Not sold on him just yet, but I've liked what I've seen from him anyway. And then you've also got Stephon Castle.
Yeah, I love Stephon Castle.
Donovan Clingan, the 7'1" center from UConn national champion last year. And then you got like, diamonds in the rough kind of with Tyrese Proctor, Australia's own, playing at Duke. And then you can even add a guy like Rob Dillingham into the mix there. Obviously, he's not going to go number 1, but, if he continues to have the season that he's having and continues to show NBA traits and playing with efficiency, then there's no reason why he can't push himself into the lottery. And
shout out my boy Khalil Ware. Surefire, number 1 pick right there. No, hopefully lottery though. Shout out Oregon, baby.
And even a guy like, who was I going to mention? There was another guard, and it just slipped my mind.
DJ Wagner?
No, not DJ.
He's fallen off a cliff, though.
Yeah, sure. He has. No, Reed Shepherd, sorry. The guy I was talking to you before the episode started. 6'2" guard from Kentucky, coming off the bench. He's bringing back shades of Devin Booker and, Tyler Hero. Not necessarily the same physical makeup, because Reed Shepherd's 6'2" and the other 2 guys are 6'6", but the same kind of flamethrower from 3. He's got absolutely pure jump shot. One of the best defenders in the entire country at 6'2", and he's pretty much leading this scoring off the bench for Kentucky. That just says a lot. And we know the history with Kentucky guards, how good they've turned out in the NBA. Tyrese Maxey, Tyler Hero, Jamal Murray, SGA, D-Book, John Wall. The list goes on and on. I could rattle off a few more names. Yeah, exactly. So I think there's always positive signs there. So anyone who obviously gets drafted from Kentucky is obviously looking like a decent NBA prospect at that. So I think Reed Shepherd will probably push his name up into contention as a lottery pick as well, but just have to see how the season plays out. But in terms of Isaiah Collier, I think, if the Wizards do get the number 1 pick, I think we have to take him. He'll be our point guard of the future. And then, couple that with Bilal Coulibaly, a guy like Denny Avdia, and then Kyle Kuzma, who I think we should keep around despite the fact, people say he doesn't play the right way. He's turned the corner in terms of his playmaking, and that's the next point we're going to go to, because it's on the list here. And Marcus, I'll let you take this one away.
Yeah, so going off Collier, I guess, you mentioned the Wizards right there. Kyle Kuzma, not a fan of this guy, to be honest. Although his scoring production is high. Look, although you mentioned, you think they probably should keep Kuzma long-term, I don't know.
Maybe not long-term.
The fact that they showed loyalty for him, and then he kind of looked around, it's a bit iffy to me. He went to where they paid him the most, and fair enough, and I guess the load, production-wise, to me, he cares a lot about scoring. Well, he gets 20-plus shots a night in Washington. I'm not going to go that in on him, because obviously he's having a good year, and the whole takeaway for this was actually about his playmaking and his increase there. He's averaging 6 assists per game in Washington, which is a career high. He averages 4 assists across his career. So that's a good sign, I guess. But the Wizards' record, it's not too good. You could argue these are empty stats, but at the end of the day, I'm not a believer really in empty stats. I think he is having a good year. Even though I'm not a fan, I think I can admit Kyle Kuzma is having a career best year. I don't think he will be an all-star. I think it's damn near the closest thing to an all-star level. 23 points per game, 6 assists. He's shooting 47% from the field. He's playing career basketball, and I think credit to him, because as a Lakers fan, I was kind of on the side where I didn't think he could adapt to a system, and that's why he kind of left LeBron and AD. Even though he won a championship, to go somewhere else so he can produce without the cost of winning. But I think he's bought into the Wizards system, even if they don't really have a system. He's willing to make that extra pass and willing to get 6 assists per game. So that's a positive sign for not only Kuzma, but for the Wizards alike. And I think, I just have to give credit when credit's due. And I think Kyle Kuzma deserves a little bit of a round of applause for what he's doing this season.
Perfect summary, but I'm just going to add on a few things. So in the last stretch of games, I'll just let you know what his assist numbers were. So he had 13 assists against Milwaukee, 10 assists against Charlotte, 4 against the Bucks again, 8 against Atlanta, 8 against Detroit, and 6 against Orlando. So from that power forward position to be passing the ball the way he has and getting his teammates involved, as much slander as we get for saying that Kuzma's a selfish player, could he be stat padding? Oh, for all we know, maybe. But at the end of the day, he's still swinging the rock. He's still getting his teammates open shots, good looks. So, I think for as much as we slander him, comparing him to a Jordan Poole kind of player, that they're both selfish, I think he has bought in as much as he can to the system and to Washington Wizards basketball. And at the end of the day, the fact of the matter is we suck. And Kyle Kuzma playing career best basketball is still not going to change the course of your team. He needs to be a second or third option moving forward. But at the end of the day, for him to turn the corner and know that he can play at this level, it's promising for us Wizards fans. But yeah, we'll just have to see how the rest of the year plays out and whether he still continues to buy in on both sides of the floor, especially as a willing playmaker. But I'll move on to the next point. And although they took an L today, the Clippers finally look like they've turned it around with Harden. I mean, they were at one point before the last couple of games. I think they were 4-1 before they lost to the Nuggets. Was it? Did they beat the Nuggets?
They did beat the Denver Nuggets.
Oh, sorry, my bad then.
Actually, let me check.
I'll get it up on reel. I might have been a oversight.
They lost the Nuggets by 9. But with that being said, they beat the Mavericks, who obviously are having a pretty good year, by about 19. They defeated the Clippers. Sorry, not the Clippers. Yeah, the Clippers defeated the Clippers. Well done, champ. Great summary there. No, they beat the Kings by about 13.
That's right. It was the Kings that they got up against. My bad.
Yeah, so, I mean, those are 2 huge wins. Dallas and the Kings. Give me a spell, Jesus.
But I think the most concerning part, even though the Clippers have started to turn the corner, I think it's the play of PG in my eyes. He's been pretty lackluster in the last 2 or 3 games. I think against the Mavericks, he had like 5 points or 6 points, whatever it was. And then today, I think he only had like 10 or 11. He wasn't shooting the ball awfully well. So, I feel like even though one guy turns it around, for example, James Harden starting to play great basketball, Russell Westbrook buying in, coming off the bench, and that game against Dallas where he was going at Luka, it was like vintage Russ again. And then even Kawhi, like, he's money from that mid-range. Anytime he steps in, every time I see him pull up for that awkward-looking mid-range jump shot, it's just wet. And I think they're starting to, like I said, find that chemistry. But I think you can't have one of those 3 or 4 guys not performing to the level that we expected them. Obviously, there's only one basketball at the end of the day, but for a guy like Paul George, with the amount of efficiency we expect of him and the amount of talent and shot creation and overall basketball nous that he does possess, for him to play the way he has the last couple of games, it is concerning. But I mean, like, at least they're winning games. They started off 0-5, 0-6 with Harden in the lineup. So the fact that they are starting to win and it's capable and proven that they can actually get wins on the board with all these guys on the same team, it's a good sign for them. But I think they just got to close out some of those games against these playoff contending teams if they really want to be taken seriously out west and in the entire league. But like I said, at least they're starting to slightly turn the corner anyways.
Yeah, as they say, clip gang don't bang, something like that.
I don't know if that's right.
Something like, no, it's like,
maybe it is, I don't know.
Something like that. That sounded really, but anyway.
Pause.
Pause. But Clippers, obviously 4 All-Stars. They should figure it out, 4 guys who want to buy in. Ultimately, they want to win. So, not much else to say, but I'll move on to another team, the Boston Celtics. And it's not like they've been playing bad. In fact, they haven't at all, but it's just typical Boston luck. Kristaps Porzingis, once again, dude's made of a wine glass. He just falls and breaks every single time. I think over the past 2 days, I think I'm putting up like Wilt Chamberlain numbers in the bar. Would have broken like 20 or so glasses already. Cut my hand. I don't know if you can see that, but there it is. Bit of glass in there. But anyway, Kristaps Porzingis, going down, always seems to go down. No surprise. He, to me, is the X factor for that team, and it's worrying because you got Al Horford in the front court and you got Luke Cornett. There's not really much else really there in the front court if KP goes down. So, to me, he's the X factor for them to win, and it's not really the greatest sign with him going down. But in terms of play, I have nothing to say about the Celtics. Obviously, regular season team, they're always got to, be consistently a really good team. So, that had to be a takeaway because KP getting injured, good news, that doesn't exist,
I like that Horford came in and knew that he had to step up. Even though it was against the Bulls, he had like an absolute ripper game, 16 points, 9 boards, 6 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks, plus 18 in the box score and shot 6 of 8 from the field. So really efficient, really, really productive play from Al Horford. And at least we know what we can expect. He is getting on in age. He is obviously not the same prime Al Horford that we saw in Atlanta all those years ago. But we know that we can, Celtics fans can still rely on him to play his role, play his part. You ideally don't want him to be playing 28, 30 minutes a night, especially as your starting option. And obviously Porzingis, I did mention this at the start of the season, in one of the hot takes. Not only should he be the second option, but if he doesn't play, and he's out for the season, or he's out for extended periods of time with his durability, that's going to hurt the chances for the Boston Celtics to win come playoff time.
I think that was both, to be fair.
Yeah, well, both of us. I don't know. Well, it was a collective thing anyway, at the end of the day. But the fact of the matter is, he's really important to that team in terms of his, mismatch that he creates on that side of the ball, being 7'3", having to try to defend him all the way out to the 3-point line. That pick and roll tandem that he has going with Jaylen Brown, that chemistry is through the roof. And yeah, I just think we just need to see him consistently on the court night in, night out if the Boston Celtics want to be there or thereabouts. I mean, they'll be around that mark no matter what without him, but I think he's the difference maker for them winning a championship and then obviously not coming home with the Larry O'Brien trophy. But just have to see how it plays out. Hopefully it's not serious, and I don't think it'll keep him out long term, but those ones can be a little bit of an issue come going forward in time with the calf strains, and then his soft tissues sort of can always linger, especially on a guy who's 7'3". But going on to my last point anyway, it's about Draymond Green and his antics, and they're questionable, and it's not a great look for not only his personal brand, but I feel like he's kind of tarnishing his legacy. I mean, if he did have any legacy, obviously he does, but a lot of it's like I want to go in on him. I want to say he kind of rode the coattails of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. At the end of the day, I think without him, though, they don't win a chip, regardless of how legendary KD was. Steph were in the playoffs last year, and Klay Thompson even chiming in, in a lot of those championship runs and any of those additional role players, like a guy like Sean Livingston, Andre Iguodala, that sort of stuff.
GP, baby.
Yeah, GP as well. But I feel like Draymond, he had the opportunity at one point to leave, go back to his home state in Michigan, play for the Detroit Pistons. I think they threw him like a 4-year, $80 million deal all those years back. He declined it. And I feel like had he gone there, we wouldn't have seen the same version as Draymond as we see with the Warriors. I feel like, he gets a lot of his legacy inflated by those guys. I'm not taking away from Draymond either, because he had that massive game against the Cavs, against the Warriors. Fred, he plays for the Warriors. Against the Cavs, and he had that 29-point game in an elimination game, and if it wasn't for that suspension, maybe they take home that championship. But I still think what he's doing, choke holding people, just being really talking a lot of shit, just being vocal, just being like, just relax, dude. Like you're starting to get to that age now where you're not impacting games like you used to. He's actually shooting a career.
What's wild? Draymond on his podcast will literally post a video. It's like, why the Golden State Warriors are struggling. Like, I just find that so funny. As a cool member of that team, you'll see like right after the game, the next day, Draymond's already on it. He's like, the secrets to why the Warriors are struggling. Like, bro, to be like, you just put someone in a chokehold. You can't be posting that when you're literally getting teched out of games, ejected. And then the fact that he goes on and he talks about Azar Thompson and he's like, nobody's really talking about Azar. Like, are we looking at what he's doing? Are you kidding me? Like, he's the type of dude who tweets out, he looks at Twitter, he finds the most like trending topic, and then he's like, we're not going to act like Azar Thompson isn't in the Rookie of the Year conversation. Like, bro, what?
Yeah, who was doubting him in the first place? Everyone was aware of it. And like, if anything...
he's just a mastermind.
But I will give Draymond one bit of credit this year, even though it's a small sample size. He is shooting a career best from three-point line, I should say, 46.4% from the three-point line. He's dialed in on that side of the ball, but I just feel like he's lost that step. He's lost that, ability to be as impactful as he was once upon a time, and I feel like father time and age is catching up with a lot of these guys on this Warriors roster besides Steph Curry. So, I mean, we just need to have Draymond still be Draymond, but just cut the antics out, just get back to trying to impact your team and playing winning basketball. And I know people are probably going to come at me and say, well, that's what Draymond's about. He's the glue guy. He's the guy that's meant to go out there and ruffle a few feathers. But like, it's almost being detrimental to what the Warriors are trying to do right now, because him being out cost them, I reckon. And if he was in the lineup, then maybe they take a few of those games and, they're not in the position they're in right now. But at the end of the day, he's just got to play less selfish style of basketball, not think of himself all the time in terms of, like behavior.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I still remember one of the funniest videos I've ever seen was when He was going at Herb Jones, and Herb Jones was like, not deterred by it at all. And then Herb Jones just points to the scorer's table, and he's like, your coach is about to sub you out. And then he goes up to Steve Kerr and he starts going like, no, keep me in, coach, keep me in. You're leaving me in. You're not subbing me out. And then Steve Kerr ended up like listening to him, but it was so funny. Herb's just pointing. He's like, Herb, he doesn't talk much, and he's just like, it was so funny. But like I said, cut the antics out, Draymond. Focus on playing the right way for your team, and I think you'll be way more impactful than what you are right now. You're almost being a detriment to your teammates and to the organization right now.